What's up, y'all? It is Pigeon Pirate, and we are back again with a fresh new haircut and a fresh new video today talking about probably the best storyline and most exciting team that made it through MSI, which is Pentanet.gg. And I just really want to make this video to talk about how they were able to make their success happen, what that means for both them and the esports, but really examine it through the lens of expectations within sports and how expectations and the lack thereof can really affect performance both in esports and in sports in general. So, I'm going to be making a lot of references to NBA, my own swimming career in this video, as well as Pentanet.gg. But I really want to make this to examine that as a topic and celebrate Pentanet.gg's success at MSI as well. So, without any further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So, the first thing that I really want to examine here is how expectations affect an athlete and competition sports in general. And there's this weird dynamic at play between what expectations mean and do for an athlete because there's the idea that really high expectations can cause a lot of stress and really put a tremendous amount of weight on athletes and create lower performance because of that. But then there's a flip side to it where people say, well, if you don't expect success, how can you ever then become successful, right? You have to expect that you will be great or be able to do something in order for you to actually end up doing it. And to me, those are two different things because they relate to two different definitions and aspects within sports. And those are the difference between expectations and confidence. And there's a lot of different studies that dive deeper into it, but those are two different ideas and concepts that oftentimes are very intertangled, but really need to be fleshed out from each other because they serve very different purposes within sports and within competition in general. So, when you're talking about confidence, you're talking about an internal belief that an athlete has in their ability to accomplish something or their ability to do something well, right? A couple great examples of people or things that have really great confidence is somebody like Steph Curry and his ability to shoot three pointers, right? This is a guy that doesn't matter if he's misses 100 three-pointers in a row, he still has confidence that he's such a great shooter that he still will shoot that shot because he knows eventually he'll start making them again. And another example of confidence, and one that I'll dive into a little bit later, is Chaz, the mid laner for Pentanet.gg, blind picking the Zed pick against Unicorns of Love, right? You don't pick that just hoping that, oh, maybe something's going to look out or turn out well for it. You pick that knowing that you have confidence in your ability to play that champion at a really high rate and not fall behind and not get punished for it and be an asset to your team just because of your mechanical skill on it. And so those are two examples of a person's internal belief on how they know that they're so confident in their ability to do something that they're willing to continue to do it regardless of circumstance. The opposite of that is the expectations, which expectations are much more of an external pressure or a demand put on somebody to have a specific outcome. And it doesn't always have to be external, it can be very internal as well, but it's a demand that someone or something is placing on you that's directly tied to the outcome of a specific event. So a couple examples of this is like Steph Curry, he might have a lot of confidence that he can score a lot and make a lot of three-pointers, but there can be an expectation that he scores 30 on a specific night. And if he doesn't score 30 on that specific night, he's a failure. Regardless of how well he plays, how well he shoots, if he doesn't reach that specific outcome, he is therefore a failure, which we all know is kind of ridiculous, but it goes to putting the point that, a team like Cloud9, who's at MSI, it doesn't matter how well they can play and whether or not they can beat the reigning world champions and the number one seed from China. if they don't perform and get it out of the rumble stage, they therefore are failures. And so it's much more of this idea that there's this external pressure that's directly linked to outcomes that drive how well you do and how well your result is. Um, and I think this is a really big definition of meet because when you don't meet those expectations, your confidence can really get shaken. And your confidence derives from things like your hours of practice, how well you do in other past events, a ton of different motivating internal beliefs that allows you to have confidence in a belief in yourself that you can achieve a specific thing or do a specific thing really well. And if you have really high expectations with that, uh, and you fail to meet up to them, all of a sudden now your confidence can start to get shaken. And so, what this essentially would look like, in effect, would be if Steph Curry is having a really great season, then all of a sudden he goes and misses 10 3-pointers in a row. If now all of a sudden, because he has the expectation and people have the expectation that he's going to be making all these threes, if he's failing to deliver and he starts doubting himself and losing confidence in his ability to shoot that 3-point shot, he's just going to stop shooting. And that's the last thing that somebody in that position is going to want to do because even if you're not meeting expectations, you still have to have the confidence in yourself to be able to know that you're good enough to do a specific thing in order for you to do it. And so that's one of the things that can really harm an athlete's ability to perform is when they have confidence and then they can play freely, do their athletic event freely, and know that they can do it supremely well. And then from their successes, all of a sudden now they have these internal or external pressures on them to perform at a specific level and achieve a specific result. And when they can't do that, or if they fall short in their ability to do that and their confidence gets shaken, once the confidence starts dipping, then the ability to rise and meet those furthering expectations become less and less and harder to achieve. And it not only, there's a lot of studies that suggest that not only is this incredibly stressful, but it changes the way athletes approach specific things. And this is something I've experienced directly in my own swimming career. Being a former Division One athlete for swimming, I know that if my team is really heavily relying on me to carry the last leg of a relay and win that event for them, because if we win that event, we win the meet. Now, all of a sudden, when I'm diving into the pool, I'm no longer thinking, oh man, I just got to swim as best I can and do what comes natural to me. Now I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I better make sure I don't screw up this flip turn, otherwise, I'm going to blow it for us. And then inevitably, you screw up the flip turn. And that's just a thing that's common across all sports and especially with esports. You saw it with Blabber going in for these insane jungle plays by flashing in to get Scuttle Crab twice within MSI. And it's just these things that all of a sudden, with these high expectations that are both internal and external that are being put on you, you're no longer just thinking and doing the things that come natural and having confidence in your ability to play. Now all of a sudden you're thinking about micro things like, oh my gosh, if I don't get this scuttle crab, I'm going to be so far behind and then our whole game's going to be screwed. And so then you tunnel in on something that you really shouldn't be ultimately in the moment and making mistakes and bad plays off of that. And so in order to avoid this and avoid those type of expectations and the negative effects that they have, it really stems from both having supreme confidence in it, but also trying to mitigate what those expectations are, right? By being able to set new goals for yourself. An example of this would be in the Western Conference semifinals last year against the Nuggets and the Clippers. The Nuggets were down 3-1 and were looking like they were going to get blown out again in game 5. And it wasn't until they said, you know what? Our new goal is not to win this series. Our new goal is to just show up and make them respect us. Now, all of a sudden, they've taken all of the external pressures that were on them off of themselves, set a new goal, and were able to play a lot more freely like that. Um, or just have a different set of expectations as a whole, or a different set of internal expectations, regardless of what the external is trying to put on you. And a team like Mad Lions at this MSI is a great example of that. I think being the European representative, a lot of people had incredibly high expectations on them, right? They didn't think they were going to do great because they're not G2 or Fnatic or one of the old guards in Europe, but they're still the European representative. So people were saying if these guys don't make it out of Rumble, they are an absolute failure. And Mad Lions, in interviews going into it, were saying, we don't care how much people expect from us. We just want to go into this tournament by doing the best that we can, have fun, grow, and learn a lot. And because they were able to put those own internal uh, expectations and tune out the external ones that other people are trying to put on them, as well as remain supremely confident in their ability to play, you see them playing really super well and making it here into the semifinals of MSI. And so the ability to reframe expectations and play with confidence and not let those expectations get the best of you is really where you see a lot of athletes perform at the highest levels. And that's kind of where Pentanet.gg comes in because this is a team that was able to come into the tournament with absolutely zero expectations. Everyone, because of where they came from and what they were predicted to do, thought that they were going to be the worst team in all of MSI. Probably no one even predicted them to win a single game. I know I picked them to win one, but that was it. And so they had no expectations, and so they were able to come into this just having fun, really wanting to grow and learn, and just seeing what happened. And because of the confidence they had in themselves, they were able to have a tremendously great performance. So, setting just a tiny bit of history on who they were and how they got here. Um, as many of you probably know, the former Australian or Oceania League was the OPL, and that was disbanded in October 7th of 2020. And because of that disbanding, many of the top players, some of whom had already left to go play for the LCS or other leagues around the world prior to that, but because of the dissolving of the OPL, all these players were given free residency to come and play in North America without taking up an import slot, which led to many of their top players leaving to come to North America. So players like Lost and Fudge, who were already in North America, were then joined by players like Shurnfire, King, Isles, Rays, Destiny, and there was really an exodus of talent out of the OPL and Oceania region. But despite that, they decided that they wanted to reform under the new banner of the LCO. And in that, the Pentanet.gg in its first season were really able to dominate, going 13-1 and winning both playoff series, both against Peace, uh, one 3-1 and then the other 3-2 off the back of some really great team fights. And so their top laner BioPanther, jungler Pabu, mid laner Chaz, AD carry Pradeath, support Deco, and coach Charlie were all able to make it here to MSI and come out of it. And so because of the collapse of the Oceania region and the reforming into the LCO, there was very, very little expectations that these guys had. And it was because of that that they were able to play at such a fun and high level. And it was immediately noticeable that these guys were here and confident in the way that they could play by the champions that they were picking and the fun that they were having on stage, which was so much fun to watch. You see, and I think it was their second game that they played. Pabu busted out the jungle fiddlesticks, BioPanther with the Urgot top. Later on, you see Chaz picking up the Zed blind pick mid lane and then played it again later on in the tournament. And they're not picking up these champions just because they think it will be funny or fun. These guys were and are legitimately trying to win every single game that they play, but they're playing in a way that suggests that we are so confident that we can play these champions and we don't have to conform to the way that everyone else is trying to play just because now we're at this stage, right? They're saying we know who we are. We know what our strengths are. We know the champions we like to play in our play style, and we are betting on the fact that if we play them really well and to the best of our abilities, we can beat you. And they were right. They were able to beat Unicorns of Love. They went 2-2 with them in the beginning stages and then beat them in the tiebreaker. And then they made it to the Rumble stage, with nobody predicted them to get to. And then were able to take out one of the top teams, Cloud9, the North American team, in that Rumble stage. And it was fantastic to see them make this run, not just because they were playing in these styles and these champions that were really fun, but you could tell that they were playing with joy. They were playing without the weight of expectations on them. So they were just free to be able to do the things they wanted to do and do it at the top level, which is why you see them on stage ripping open their shirts saying Oceania number one, or bringing on the uh, bringing on the whiteboard that says Unicorns of Loss. And it's just a lot of fun to see that they had the confidence in themselves to be able to take on the best teams, but take them on in a way where they were doing it the way they wanted to play. They weren't trying to conform and do something else that somebody else were doing it. They were confident in their own ability and therefore wanted to play their own style, which was really great. And a comparison that I really like to make in this and see a lot of similarities to was in last year's NBA playoffs with the Miami Heat. This too was a team that came in as a tremendous underdog. No one really expected them to even win one first round series, let alone make it to the NBA Finals, but they continue to show up and play hard because no one was expecting them to get there, so they bought fully into their own ability, had supreme confidence in themselves, and played their style of basketball, which was hard nosed, in your face, we will beat you because we're tougher than you basketball. And because they bought into that and bought into it so well and were able to play with so much freedom, they advanced far, far further than anyone would have predicted them to do it. And Pentanet.gg is the exact same way. They were able to make it way further than anyone expected and really show up against some of the top teams in the entire world because of this. And it just goes to show that not only is playing without expectations, because you can have expectations, but if you're able to limit that or set your own internal expectations and just play with confidence and the way you know how to play and have been doing for years and have built that confidence out of the hard work and practice throughout a period of time, then you're able to really shine and perform at your highest level as an athlete or in any specific sport or esport that is. And I think Pentanet.gg is just a resounding story of a team that was able to have amazing results and a team that really showcases that if you're confident in yourself and you're able to play with freedom regardless of expectations, that you can achieve and go a lot further than other people may think you can. So, for me, I think it's just a really fantastic story that should be celebrated, that Pentanet.gg were able to do what they were able to do. And the players like BioPanther, Pabu, Chaz, Pradith, and Decoy really deserve all of the praise that's coming their way because they were able to show up and show up big against the best teams in the world. And one of the things I do think that will happen is now with all of these results that they're able to achieve, come Worlds, if Pentanet.gg is able to make it again, there might be now a layer of expectations that's on them, right? If they did this well, now all of a sudden going into Worlds, people might be putting pressure on them, saying, well, if you did it at MSI, how can you do it at Worlds? Let's see it again. Let's, prove your worth and show us that you actually performed what you can and did. And like I said, examples like Mad Lions or the Denver Nuggets being able to refocus what those external pressures may be and set different goals or be able to set different expectations for yourself and be able to do things in a way that doesn't have outcomes drive lowering confidence if you're not getting the results within matches that you want to see, is something that I have a lot of faith that Pentanet.gg is going to be able to do, because you saw how much joy they were having on stage. You saw the fun and the love for the esport that they had while they were playing on stage and goofing around and having fun. And because of that, I really think that this team is going to be able to not just handle that weight of expectations really well, uh, but come back even stronger and really make a fun push for World. So I'm really looking forward to see what they do come Worlds if they make it. But hats off to them. This is a team that absolutely deserved how far that they made it. They played hard, they played great, and I think it's a great story. So, regardless, if you like this video, think I'm right, think I'm wrong, think I'm an idiot, let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.